Welcome everyone to our webinar this morning with a joint webinar between Webgility and X-Cart. And today we're going to be talking about automating your e-commerce accounting for the holidays and beyond. And today is November 13th. So a bit of housekeeping before we get started. Today's webinar is going to be scheduled for about an hour. All the participants are muted at this time. Now, if you have any questions, you can submit those questions in the GoToWebinar chat screen. You'll see in your upper right-hand corner there's an orange arrow. If you click on that arrow, it will expand your GoToMeeting dashboard. And you'll see an area that has questions, or that says questions. You can put all your questions there. We'll aggregate those questions and answer them at the end of our presentation when we're in the question and answer forum. So today's presenters are myself, Allegra Mitchell, and I am the Customer Success Manager here at Webgility. I also have with me Chris Robinson, who is our Gold Certified QuickBooks Pro Advisor on staff at Webgility as well. So a little bit about Webgility and kind of what we do. We are an e-commerce accounting integration provider, and we've been certified with Intuit since 2007, and we're also partnered with Xero as well. And our product suite works with over 40 e-commerce shopping platforms, shopping cart platforms, and SaaS providers. And we're also within a network with over 300. We're also within a network with pro advisors, accountants, web designers, and developers. And our product serves thousands of small to medium-sized businesses worldwide. And we're also headquartered in San Francisco. So a little bit about our products. The two products. One of the main product I'm going to be talking about today is ECC Desktop, but we also have ECC Cloud, which integrates exclusively with QuickBooks Online. So a little bit about ECC Desktop. It's able to work with QuickBooks Pro, Premier, Enterprise, and Point of Sale. It's able to sync your orders and your products and your customers and your inventory. And this is really important to e-commerce selling in general, the management of products, inventory, and customers, as well as orders. Multi-channel. So multi-channel means you can have different online shopping carts all connected to ECC Desktop flowing into QuickBooks Online. So in addition to X-Cart, if you're on eBay or Amazon, you can integrate those as well. We also have an element of automation, and we call that ECC Scheduler. ECC Scheduler is able to automate the downloading of orders, posting to QuickBooks, as well as communicating back to the shopping cart that an order has shipped. And you can also ship within our order, you can also ship within our software with this free add-in with shipping integration. Now, ECC Cloud, as I mentioned, works exclusively with QuickBooks Online as well as Xero, since we are Xero certified. You can do the same thing in terms of downloading orders, products, and customers, and put all those into either QuickBooks Online or Xero. It is also multi-channel, and you can integrate multiple shopping carts of X-Cart, eBay, Amazon within ECC Cloud. And it also has a form of automation that's able to automatically post orders to either QuickBooks Online or Xero. So today's agenda. We're really going to talk about best practices for managing your e-commerce business. Now, these best practices will cover accounting, it will cover inventory. It's really talking about how to be not only a better online seller, but also a more informed online seller so you can grow your business through knowing as much as possible about your order volume, your products, and your inventory. And through that, you can optimize those operations and get the financial clarity with ECC Desktop and the accounting automation. So I'll show a little bit of that when we go into the demo. And then we'll go right into our Q&A forum and answer your questions. Great. So now I'm actually going to turn it over to Chris, who's going to be talking about the accounting best practices for e-commerce.
Thank you, Allegra. So in this portion of the webinar, I'm going to cover how to reconcile your sales, how to avoid overselling, how to calculate sales taxes owed, how to manage multiple sales channels, and how to manage customers. So when you think about reconciling your bank account, there's two main ways of doing it in QuickBooks. You either can use your undeposited funds account and then use a built-in reconcile feature, which works really well if you want to have a very granular detail of what you're reconciling. Or you can use something called a clearing account, which most of my clients who have over 1,000 or 2,000 orders a month tend to use, because frankly they just don't want to click that many individual transactions. So let's jump into QuickBooks to see how those look. So the standard way that a lot of you may be used to doing your reconciliation is you would go into banking, make deposits, and it would pull up your undeposited funds account. You then would select the payments that were sitting in undeposited funds and deposit them into your checking account. Now, the idea behind an undeposited funds account is supposed to mimic a cash drawer in a retail sales environment. So in a cash drawer, throughout the day, you're selling things to people, and the amount of the sales sit in the cash drawer until the end of the day. You collect all that cash and deposit it in the bank. And that's exactly what just happened here. This is all the individual sales you made and all the cash that was in your virtual cash drawer, also known as undeposited funds, and then you deposit it into the bank account. Then what you do, usually at the end of the day, week, or month, is you go back into banking and use the reconcile function. The reconcile function will show you on one side all the money that has gone into your bank account, and on the other side all the money that has come out. You click on each thing and it should equal 0 at the end. It should equal the ending balance of your bank account from the statement that you received from your bank. And like I said, this works great if you don't have a lot of transactions, but can you imagine if you had multiple deposits throughout the day and every deposit held, hundreds of different transactions? Well, then this could become quite tedious. For people that find themselves in that scenario, they tend to use what is called a clearing account. So if we look at our chart of accounts, we can see the clearing account that we have here. It is actually a specialized type of bank account. So what I'm going to do is hop over into ECC to put some transactions in that clearing account. You can actually, using ECC Desktop, select what account you would like your transactions to deposit into, and we'll make sure that they're depositing to this Amazon clearing account. Now, I've found over the years that for my e-commerce clients, ECC is one of the simplest, easiest ways to get their transactions into QuickBooks. I've seen a lot of people that what they do is at the end of the day, week, or month, make one giant sales receipt with all the items on it that they've sold in their shopping cart. But the trouble with that is you don't get the detailed breakout of what you actually sold to each customer. You usually don't get the breakout of your taxes and your shipping charges. So let's use ECC to grab some orders to put in to that undeposited funds account. I'm just going to grab like 5 or 6 of them and post them over to QuickBooks. So basically what happens is once these post into the clearing account, that clearing account is built up with all the sales that you've had. Let's imagine that it's for the month. And at the end of the month, your Amazon, well, for Amazon it's really every 2 weeks, will tell you the expenses and fees that they take out of the money that they deposit in your account. So the total of all your sales isn't what actually shows up in your bank account. It's the total of all the sales minus the expenses and fees. Amazon never actually bills you for the expenses and fees because they just take it out of the money before they give it to you. Now, what you do in the clearing account is you have the total of all your sales. You look into Amazon's settlement report to figure out what the expenses and fees were. You create a bill for that amount, pay it from the clearing account. So your total sales minus your expenses and fees should equal what Amazon deposited in your bank. And then you just transfer that amount over to your bank account. So while ECC is finishing up creating those orders in QuickBooks for us, let's create that bill from Amazon. So you just go to the Vendor Center, enter bills. We'd make a bill basically from Amazon. and make sure it hits your Amazon fees expense account. And we'll say that the fees for that period were $32.50. Oh, it looks like ECC finished doing its job. So then what we want to do is make sure to pay the bill. And when we pay it, we want to pay it from the Amazon clearing account there. So then the final step of reconciling to your bank account is you go and do a transfer, banking transfer, and move that value that was left over in your clearing account over to your actual checking account. Like I said, this is going to match the amount that Amazon actually did deposit in your bank account. And the reason why they call it a clearing account is once all of that is done, you can see the balance of the account is now zero again. Okay. So the next thing I'd like to talk about is ways to avoid overselling. Now the reason why this is so important is I've seen a lot of my clients before they came to me, and the reason that made them come to an inventory specialist was they were becoming a victim of their own success. What typically happens is all of a sudden their things go great, their business is skyrocketing. A lot of times this happens around this time of the year, around the holidays. And they are disorganized in their inventory and they start to sell things that they actually don't have. Because they sold something that they didn't have, it took them longer than normal to fulfill the item. So maybe the customer was expecting to have that item within a week or at least before Christmas, but the company couldn't do that because they didn't have enough inventory on hand. Because the customers did not receive their items like they expected, they then left bad reviews about that particular vendor. The bad reviews then caused a drop in business. So as you can see, it's very important to keep track of your inventory. Now, how can you do that? One of the important things is knowing where your inventory is at all times. That means having a master inventory location. That means having one spot, one program where all your inventory is being tracked. Typically, I always recommend that spot being QuickBooks. Now, conceivably, you could have that maybe in your online shopping cart. The thing is, though, if you start having multiple sales channels, you're going to want to use QuickBooks because if you have people walking in and purchasing stuff, you're going to want to record those in QuickBooks, and then you're also going to want your online sales to also be recorded in QuickBooks. That's another reason why I really like ECC Desktop, is they have the ability to sync quantity, and they can actually even do it, well, these are all in sync, so it's kind of a bad example here, but they actually can sync the quantity automatically for you. So what it will do is it will scan your products in QuickBooks, and then it will also scan your products in your online store, and if it sees a difference in quantity in the online store from QuickBooks, it'll update your online store to have that QuickBooks quantity. So imagine you were selling on Amazon, eBay, and X-Cart, as well as retail sales, and you had 10 of a particular item in stock. You sell one of those items on X-Cart, that brings the quantity down to 9, then ECC transfers that as a sales receipt into QuickBooks, bringing the quantity down to 9 there as well. Then ECC notices the difference between QuickBooks and Amazon and eBay that still have those 10 quantities. Well, it will update those quantities to 9 as well all across the board. And that becomes even more important when you get down to that big 0 number. When it hits 0, then that triggers Amazon, eBay, and X-Cart to delist the item so that they're not available for sale anymore. Another thing that's smart to do when you sell retail and online is to split your inventory. You always want to hold some inventory back that's not available on your sales floor. On your sales floor, that's only available on your shopping cart. The reason for this is it's impossible to oversell in your brick and mortar. No one can buy something that's not there. However, on your online shopping cart, that can happen. Another thing that helps people have proper stock level is using minimum reorder points in QuickBooks. Let me show you how those work. So there's a report in QuickBooks called your stock status by item. You go to Reports, Inventory, and Stock Status by Item. What this basically shows you is the number you have on hand, your minimum reorder points, and if your quantity on hand is less than your minimum reorder point, you have a little check mark next to it, the item. That means it's time to reorder it. So it's an easy report to run, daily to see if you need to reorder anything. How do you set those minimum reorder points? Well, if you go into your item list and you drill down onto one of your items, you can see the minimum reorder point field is right here. I know if you have a large item list, it may be difficult to drill down into every item and reset that. So there is actually a faster way to do it. If you go to List, at the very bottom there's Add, Edit, Multiple List Entries. This pulls up an Excel-like area where you can select your inventory parts, and then you can go over until you find the minimum reorder point column here, and you can just quickly go through and change them to be whatever you would like. And it's much faster than going through and drilling down. And it even has a feature where it can copy down. So you could select like the 4 here, and then I could go copy down, and it changes all the ones below it to 4 as well. One thing to think about when you're setting your minimum reorder points, like how do you decide what should my minimum reorder point be? The main thing you want to think about is your lead time. Lead time is how long does it take for your manufacturer or supplier to get you more items. Let's say it takes a week for them to get to you once you submit a purchase order, well then you need to do some sales forecasting and think, how many items do I normally sell in a week? Well, that number is probably going to be, or a little larger than that number, is going to end up being your minimum reorder point. So another thing that people who sell on various e-commerce channels get confused about is calculating their sales tax. If you're only selling retail in QuickBooks, it's really easy to figure out your sales tax, right? Because you enter in the sales tax at the bottom of the transaction, and there's a report you can run from QuickBooks to tell you how much sales tax you collected for each different taxing area. When you have an online shopping cart, it's a little bit more difficult, right? Especially if you're not using ECC to push those orders in for you. You're going to have to set up rules in your shopping cart because it's the thing that determines how much tax to collect for each customer. In California, for instance, we have a different tax area for each different county. I think it's like over 100 different taxing areas. And so you would, to collect your taxes properly, set up a different tax amount for each. Los Angeles has its own, San Francisco has its own, Contra Costa County has its own. You have to set up a different tax rate for all of those. In addition to that, each different county has elections at different times that could change those tax rates, so they're ever changing. That's why there is a plugin called Avalara that plugs into X-Cart. It can plug into QuickBooks, it can plug into ECC Desktop, and they do that for you. They maintain a database of the tax rate for every different tax area across the whole country. So it really makes figuring out what you owe in sales tax very simplified. If you do choose to use ECC Desktop to help you bring orders in so that the sales tax comes into QuickBooks, it happens a little bit differently than normal. What they do is they just put all the sales tax in one bucket, like this one here, in-state sales tax. So if I right-click on this and run a quick report, you can run a quick report to see all the taxes that Webgility has collected. But where do you find the breakout for how much you owe to each individual tax district? Well, you have to go back to the origin of who collected the taxes in the first place, your shopping cart. If you go into X-Cart, you can run a report to find out how much taxes you charged and where those went to each different taxing district. So what you do is you look to see the total that your taxes collected, and then you look in X-Cart to see how you break those out to each different tax district, and the two totals should match. So I want to talk a little bit about how to manage multiple sales channels. It's very important that you're able to maintain insight into your business and know how well you're doing in each different sales channels. One of the best way of doing that is by using class tracking in QuickBooks. So if we jump into QuickBooks, we can see here to turn on class tracking, you go to Edit Preferences, Accounting, the Company Preferences tab, and this is the area here where you do turn on the class tracking. Once it's turned on, you go up to your lists area to create classes. You can see here that this has an Amazon class, an eBay class, a retail class, and an X-Cart class. If we look at my transactions, or actually, I want to show you a really great report you can use once you have class tracking turned on. It's your profit and loss by class. When you run this report, it will show you each different sales channel side by side, so you can really see how well you're doing and see where your efforts are going and if it's worthwhile. If you're spending most of your time on your retail store and it's not the main amount of your sales, really the main amount of your sales is coming from eBay, well, that tells you, maybe you should think about advertising more and putting more effort into eBay, because that's really where your biggest return is. If you drill down onto this report, you can see each individual transaction that had that class. You can see the transaction classes up here. Now, ECC can also help you with that. If you're using ECC to pull in your orders from eBay and X-Cart and Amazon to put into QuickBooks, when you configure when you configure ECC, you can select which class you would want those transactions to go into. And for each different store you have set up in ECC, you can set a different class. And I find that once I set up my clients to have their different sales channels tracked by class, they really love this report. The important thing to think about when managing your customers is, what information do you really need to have? Do you really want to keep detailed information on every single customer who buys one t-shirt from you through your online store? Or would you rather keep more detailed information on your wholesalers and distributors who are coming back and purchasing from you every week or month? That's something that a lot of people need to think about when creating customers in QuickBooks. Your customer list is limited to 100,000 customers for one thing. So if you're doing a couple thousand orders a month, you may fill up the QuickBooks database to the maximum number of customers allowed. Even if you're not getting to that 100,000 limit of customers, you don't want your wholesaler and distributors that you deal with all the time to be obscured by all these one-time purchase type people. That's why a lot of times I recommend people make a new customer called, for instance, eBay customer. Then all of their eBay sales can be saved underneath this one generic eBay customer. People then sometimes get worried and think, well, then I'm not going to have individual customers with their contact information and email and everything in the Customer Center. In my response to that is, the Customer Center in QuickBooks is a very poor CRM tool. There's not a lot you can do with it. You can't parse this data. You can't create an email drip campaign. There's just not a lot of stuff you can really do that you would really want to do with a full CRM tool. So therefore, I think it's a good idea to choose a different third-party CRM tool to really manage your customers. You also have to think about where your customer data is held. If you have a very old QuickBooks company file and you have thousands of customers' emails already in here, maybe you would want to get a CRM tool that links to QuickBooks. There's this one called Method CRM that works very well and is very powerful. It's a little bit complicated, but I've seen some great things done with it. Otherwise, if you're a newer company, I would recommend finding a CR tool that plugs in directly to your shopping cart. So if you're using X-Cart, for instance, you're going to want to go to X-Cart's marketplace and try to find one that plugs into X-Cart. The reason for that being is your shopping cart is the point of origin for the information. That's where the information is coming from originally, so that's the best time to capture it. When you're getting customer information, you want to think about what classification of customer is this. Wholesale versus retail is the most common one that people really care about. In most shopping carts, what you can do is set up a password protected area on your site so the customer or the wholesaler rather has to enter in their login name and password, and then that opens up the site to different pricing structures. So then instead of your wholesaler submitting purchase orders to you, they can purchase the items on your shopping cart, and you can use Webgility's ECC desktop to then take those orders and put them into QuickBooks automatically for you, so you don't have to hand key in those purchase orders. It's basically putting the burden onto them of creating that data, which they're doing anyways because they're going to have to create that purchase order no matter what. It just saves you some time. And then also, once you are using the CRM tool to get these emails, you can parse them out to send different marketing campaigns based on customer type, maybe location in the country that they're at. There's just many different ways to slice and dice that data. So thank you for listening to my presentation. I'm about to hand the reins back over to Allegra, and she's going to be able to do some polling questions to find out more about the people who are listening to this webinar.
Alrighty, everyone. So now we're going to start to take our poll. These polling questions are really to, see who you are, what you guys are doing, and how relevant this information can be for you. So we're just going to go through our poll. Now the first poll we have is about what accounting software are you using? So what accounting software are you using? Just go ahead and fill that in. Okay. Okay, great. We're going to close the poll now. So I see a lot of you are using QuickBooks Desktop, primarily Enterprise as well. I see a few of you are using QuickBooks Online. That's awesome as well. And I also see a few questions that are really about QuickBooks Online as well. So we're going to get to those questions in the Q&A form in a bit. All right, so the second question. This is about online channels, multiple online channels. So just remember, even if you're using point of sale or have a brick and mortar store, as soon as you go online, you now technically have two stores. So keep that in mind as you answer this particular question. Alrighty, closing the poll now. Okay, so I see a lot of you are using multi-channel, and that's great. And so when I go into the demo, I'll show you how to toggle between the different shopping carts and actually the different online channels, and just show you kind of how you can utilize ECC when you're on multi-channel. All right, so the next poll is about who is managing your bookkeeping. This is really important because this person who's managing your bookkeeping, they could be you, they could be an employee, but it's also really important that we understand kind of how you're doing this now. All right, I see a few of you are answering. I'll keep it open just a moment. All right, closing the poll now. So I see a lot of you have an employee who is doing this bookkeeping as well. I see also a few of you who are managing that yourself. So this is really where ECC can have an impact on whoever is putting in these records into QuickBooks. So awesome. And I also see one of you has an external bookkeeper and accountant. That's also really good too, because the external bookkeeper or accountant is really going to be looking at your QuickBooks, seeing what's in there, and they could also be using ECC as well to post orders to QuickBooks. And they definitely should be involved in the conversation while doing the setup, because they may have certain accounts they want particular transactions to hit, and that's really important for them too. So we're up to our last polling question. Would you like more information? And definitely it'd be great if we could contact you after this webinar, and thank you. I see a lot of folks answering here. That's really good, and because we really want to make sure, I know this is the holidays, so everyone is probably really kind of set in what they're doing, which is okay. That's to be expected. It's the holidays. So after the holidays, after your busy time, we'd love to, have this conversation again and see where you're at and see what you need from our software as well as our services we have here. All right, closing the poll. So thank you very much for answering those poll questions. And now we're going to jump back into the presentation and begin showing the ECC desktop demo. So now we're here for the demo. So there was a lot of areas that Chris already showed, which is fine. So I'm actually going to take you into kind of a technical journey of our software and really show you where things are within the software, how things are set up within the software, just so you get a comprehensive view of how this is all working. So this is ECC Desktop. What you're looking at right now is the dashboard. The dashboard, this is pretty much the home screen. No matter what online channel you're integrating with, this is always going to look the same. So for example, I'm in a completely different channel right now. If I wanted to go to my X-Cart channel, I just flip through the stacks here and I can toggle to this X-Cart store here. And as you can see, all of the shopping carts and all of the online channels are here, so you can freely toggle between each one, especially if you have multiple channels, which I see a lot of you do. So right now you're looking at the dashboard. The dashboard has a really good representation in terms of graph as to what's going on within your online shopping cart. So you can see the particular orders you have, a nice little revenue summary, just some information about what's going on and what ECC has downloaded into the inbox. So the orders that ECC downloads, they're put here in the inbox. I want to really, before I talk about this order fulfillment, I want to take you through the configuration and talk about the flexibility of ECC through the intelligent integration of our software. So for that, I'm going to go to the store configuration. Now, the store configuration can be set up differently for each online channel, and this is part of the intelligent integration that we have within our software. So I'm just going to take you through the most important screens and show you around a little bit. The first important screen I'm going to show you is the transaction screen. The transaction screen will govern what type of transactions are created within QuickBooks when you post to QuickBooks. So for example, I'm going to do a sales receipt. I can set up that sales receipt as Chris showed you earlier. If I have a set deposit to account, which I do, I'm going to put it here. And if I have a transaction class, I can do that as well. So I'm going to put this in the X-Cart transaction class so I can stay organized. So that is how you set up a transaction. Of course, you can display particular information on the transaction and which will show up so you can really understand and know exactly what went on in the online store when you're looking at a transaction within QuickBooks. So another really important screen is the customer screen here. Now, as we mentioned before, ECC Desktop is able to help you take your customers from your online store and put those into QuickBooks within the Customer Center. This is how this is accomplished. ECC Desktop looks at the customer in the online store and tries to create this customer in QuickBooks in the Customer Center based on these terms here. So it's really important to look at your how your Customer Center is already organized or how you would like your Customer Center organized once ECC can populate this information, and just choose it here. Now, Chris also mentioned, he did talk about standard customers for your eBay customers or for your Amazon customers. And this is really, really good for multi-channel and also for multi-channel in the marketplace. He mentioned a lot about not wanting to have all of these customers in your Customer Center that are just kind of random customers. So putting those under a standard customer, that can be done here. So here's the standard customer. My standard customer in this case is online store orders, and this is the standard customer that you can use as well. So your standard customer, you can call that anything you'd like, and this is how you would do this. All right. The next really important screen is the product screen. So we really talk about not only can you automate your accounting, but you can also really have a hold on your inventory and manage inventory, sync inventory between X-Cart and QuickBooks. So this is how this area, this is how we accomplish this, and it's all set up within this particular area here. Now, when we talked about inventory and how to really get a hold of the inventory, one of the most important parts about inventory management is matching criteria. How a product is expressed within the online store and how a product is expressed in QuickBooks. It really should be the same exact thing. When a product is expressed the same way in two different places, ECC Desktop sees that as a matching item. And it's really, really easy for ECC to then synchronize the quantity. You really don't have to do anything to it because ECC sees it in two places as the same thing. And that's really important for managing inventory and synchronizing inventory quickly. Now, if, for example, all of your products are in your X-Cart store, but none are in your QuickBooks, ECC Desktop can also create those within QuickBooks based on this matching criteria that you have set. And this can happen when you post the order to QuickBooks. This can also happen manually when you're transferring products. I'll take you through the product module and I'll show you that as well. Another screen I want to show you that's really important is the taxes screen. That's also a really important screen as well because everybody has to deal with taxes. ECC Desktop is able to deal with taxes in 4 different ways. If you have products that are not taxable, you would choose this first option here. The second option, letting QuickBooks calculate the tax, this is actually really, really important because first of all, X-Cart has a really advanced tax engine. So you can put the tax percentage for a particular item. You can put the tax to be calculated after the shipping, before the shipping, and really kind of work in when and what is going to be calculated as taxable. Now, that's all with X-Cart, but this first option is letting QuickBooks calculate the tax. So if you have created tax items in QuickBooks, QuickBooks will override the taxation of X-Cart and calculate the tax based on the percentage of the tax item that you've created in QuickBooks. The second area is recording the recording the tax as a line item. This takes into account the taxation that X-Cart has put in there. So it just marks it as a line item, and the taxation that's already done in X-Cart is just added to this particular line item with the costs associated with it. So there's kind of 2 different ways of how tax is calculated. The last form of how ECC Desktop can calculate tax is with the Avalara AvaTax plugin. Now, I know X-Cart does have an Avalara AvaTax plugin, so if Avalara AvaTax is already calculating the tax within X-Cart at the time of sale, then recording the taxes as a line item would be the best way of handling that because the taxation is already done. And you know by using Avalara AvaTax, it's correct and accurate. So those are the 4 screens I wanted to show you that are really important in terms of order fulfillment and really setting up this intelligent integration through each type of store configuration that you have within ECC. Now back to order fulfillment. So as I mentioned, this is the dashboard. To get orders or download those orders from X-Cart, you press this green Get Orders button here. Your new orders are put in the inbox. So this is kind of like, think of this as your email inbox. This is all the new stuff that you have. So as you can see, there's a few orders here that are in the process of fulfillment. I see that here's some orders that are shipped out. Here's an order that has been posted to QuickBooks. Now, I do want to mention that we do have a shipping add-in within our product, and I just want to show you that before I go into the QuickBooks posting, because shipping is really a big, important part of order fulfillment. So let's just take a look at our shipping module that we have in here. So I'm going to select an order and click Process Shipping. Alrighty, so this is our shipping module, and as you can see, I've set up UPS WorldShip and FedEx, and just like you're toggling between your different online channels, you can toggle between your different shipping processors within ECC Desktop. So as you can see, this particular order, in terms of shipping, the customer paid $25 for shipping, and they selected FedEx Ground. So I'm going to ship this with FedEx Ground. And when you integrate all of your shipping providers within ECC Desktop, it's able to lock into the particulars for that shipping provider. For example, FedEx. These are all of the options, the additional options you have for FedEx. Same with UPS WorldShip or any other shipping processor that we integrate with. We're compliant with all of them. So if they release a new feature, a new shipping function, we're going to have it within our software. So one also cool thing about this, you can also get rates, and you can also compare rates between, let's say, USPS, so for example, stamps.com versus FedEx. So if you have multiple shipping processors, you can compare rates and choose which one is going to have the lower rate and choose that as well. And also, after you get the rates, you can generate a shipping label. A shipping label can be printed out on a regular printer, or if you're using a label printer, ECC Desktop is compatible with many of the most popular label printers that are used. So when an order is shipped out, it is displayed here. You see how this order is paid and it is shipped. So this is what a shipped order looks like as well. When ECC ships out a particular order, if I double-click on this order, I can not only see that what carrier and method that this order was shipped out with, I can also see the tracking ID, and that's really, really very important. So after you ship an order using ECC Desktop, you can communicate back to the store the shipping information and the change in the order status. For example, this order is now shipped, and also X-Cart can trigger an email to be sent to that client or that customer that the order has shipped. So that's an also really important part of shipping and fulfilling an order. So now that this order is shipped, it's also posted to QuickBooks. I know earlier Chris showed the process of selecting a bunch of orders and posting them to QuickBooks. So you've already seen that part. One cool thing I do want to show is the automatic retrieval of the transaction created in QuickBooks. So we have this green check mark right here. If you double click on that green check mark, QuickBooks will open and automatically retrieve that particular transaction within QuickBooks. So no more having to go retrieve and look up a particular order within QuickBooks. You can automatically retrieve it. So that was a little demo of ECC Desktop. Also, one thing I want to mention before I close down the demo is the automation. Automation is really important to a lot of our users, and the fact that we can do accounting automation and automating the downloading of the orders, communicating back to the store that the order is shipped, is also a really important component within our software, and we call that the ECC Scheduler. So I'm going to show you what the ECC Scheduler looks like and what you can automate. So this is the scheduler button right here. It actually runs within the system tray. So even if ECC Desktop itself is closed, the scheduler will continue to automate the particular functions that you have asked it to automate. So it's a bit of an independent piece of software that is coupled with the overall product. So for example, this is the scheduler. Now the scheduler can be set for any of these online stores, any of the online channels that you have. So this is my X-Cart store here. So I can, the configuration area is just getting new information from either the online store or QuickBooks. This order screen right here is configuring the automated download of orders, posting into QuickBooks. This product screen sets up the automation and how ECC is synchronizing the products. So for example, I want to automate every 15 minutes updating to the online store product at the quantity level. That's also really, really important as well. So that's the scheduler. Now, one thing I want to show you in terms of the product module is how ECC is able to kind of utilize the product module here. So in the product module, I can see all of the products I have in QuickBooks, and I can also see all the products I have in my online store. So this is really about seeing the information that has been disjointed in one place. So I can just see exactly what I need all in one place. I want to also bring your attention to the synchronization of products. The synchronization of products is really, ECC is looking at your products in QuickBooks, the products in the online store, and looking at what's matching. So for example, with this particular item here, I've got my price is the same. That's not the part that's out of sync. The part that's out of sync is the quantity. I have 188 in my store and I have 0 in QuickBooks. What is correct? Based on my master inventory location, which is the place where when you receive new inventory, you update that information or that area first. So for example, my online store is my master location for inventory. That's where I receive all my new products because it's the customer facing. It can be anything you want it to be. So whatever area that is for you, that's your master location. I want my QuickBooks to reflect what's in my online store. So I can select this particular item, update the online product at the quantity level, and I will be able to see that this quantity, rather than having 0 in QuickBooks, will have 188, and this product will be in sync. So that's the synchronization capabilities of the product module within ECC Desktop. So now we've entered our question and answer forum. So do you guys have any questions? I know there was a few questions that came in earlier, and there was actually one particular question that dealt with inventory in ECC Cloud that I think Chris will be perfect to address. Just 1 second. Here's Chris to address that particular question.
So the question that I got says, do you have a recommendation for a cloud-based inventory management solution that integrates with ECC? This would need to include using a barcode scanner to scan incoming raw materials and products to add to inventory, and outgoing products that are being shipped to customers to be deducted from inventory. So that's a pretty high-powered request to be able to have the barcode scanners to link directly with your inventory, and I'm not aware of a cloud-based product that will do that. There is a cloud-based product called SOS Inventory that links directly to QuickBooks Online to manage your inventory and offers you solutions such as the ability to use inventory assemblies, to have multiple locations, to track lot numbers, to track landed costs, and a whole host of other things. And that program does work well with ECC Cloud. The way that works is you have to imagine that QuickBooks Online is your hub. You get an order into your shopping cart. ECC Cloud bridges that order over into QuickBooks Online. And then SOS, which also does a bidirectional sync with QuickBooks Online, sees that sales receipt, pulls it in, and has that make deductions to the inventory. As far as using a scanning software to help you receive and ship goods, the two main players in that industry are a company called WASP and another one called BOSS Systems, spelled B-A-U-S. Both of them make their own scanning hardware and have software that goes along with that. Both of them sync up to QuickBooks Desktop, but I don't believe that they have the ability to sync to QBO or X-Cart. So I hope that answered your question. You can always contact me and I'll take it offline to give you more personalized advice. It looks like we also have a question on how to handle bundled items in your shopping cart. That's one that I see quite often. Let me just hop into QuickBooks and show you guys about that. So for those of you who are not familiar, a bundled item most usually in shopping carts happen one of two ways. Either a bundled item is like a 5 or 10 pack of an item you also sell singly. So imagine that you were selling socks and people could buy 1 pair of socks, or they could buy 5 pairs or 10 pairs. And usually when you buy in a 5 or 10 pack, there's also a discount associated with it for buying a larger amount. The item that you want to link that to in QuickBooks is called a group item. So if I go here into my item list and I create a group item, right here, you can see it opens up like a bill of materials area. What you do is you would select the item that you were going to sell in bulk and put in the quantity. Say we were doing 10 of them. And then you'd also want to put in a discount here. That was the discount was the amount of the reduced price, because the group item is just going to put in 10 of these base items on your sales receipt, and the price will just be 10 times whatever the price is of the base item. So that's why you need to put the discount item in the group 2 to get that price to even out to exactly what you would like it to be. So let's take a look at how that happens. So the group item is just like a placeholder here on your item list. When it shows up on a sales receipt or an invoice, it will pull those items from the bill of material and put them on the invoice for you automatically. So imagine that we had this test group item come up. You can see it pulled in 10 of this base item, and then I have the discount here, which you'd have to program the discount to be however much off your customer gets for buying in bulk. Now the other way that this group item or a bundle, or sometimes they're called kits on the online shopping cart, are used is what I like to call like a gift basket. So imagine that you were a website that sold school supplies for children, and you wanted to have a back-to-school special where if they bought a backpack, pens, a binder, and paper, they could buy all those together and have a discount on that. And it would basically work exactly the same way, except for instead of creating a group item that was just a 10-pack, you would have multiple things on the bill of material of that group item. And the nice thing about the groups is that they pull the items from your inventory at the time that that invoice or sales receipt is created. And that just makes the workflow work much better than if you were using an assembly, which an assembly should be used for something that you take the individual pieces and put them together to make a new finished good that sits on your shelf. So I hope that was able to clear up your question about how to handle bundled items in QuickBooks.
Awesome. Thank you, Chris. I also saw that there was an earlier question about the inventory capabilities within QuickBooks Online. I do want to mention that the inventory capabilities with QuickBooks Online is only offered with QuickBooks Online Plus. And within QuickBooks Online Plus, you're able to see the quantity, deduct the quantity, have quantity deducted from the online store into QuickBooks Online Plus utilizing ECC Cloud. So that's one caveat I just wanted to mention because QuickBooks Online has several flavors, and the only flavor that handles inventory is QuickBooks Online Plus. Oh, I also see that we have a question about QuickBooks Point of Sale. And this question with QuickBooks Point of Sale, if you have, I see this question as saying, what's the best way to manage inventory within the online store and while customers are purchasing products in the store? This is a very good question, and this is a question of this is actually a matter of control. I know with a point of sale client, the main focus is trying not to oversell online because if someone orders something in the store, they have it. They walk away with it. If someone online purchases that same product, they don't have it, even though they think that they do. And so this, if you find that this is a pattern, and you're constantly running into this problem of having to refund things. I know depending if you have a certain, if you're working with Amazon and you do too many refunds, they can kind of ding you for that. So since overselling is, one of the quickest ways to get really bad ratings from your customers, you may want to look into splitting the inventory. I find splitting the inventory, so having a dedicated inventory just for online sales versus inventory that's to be sold in the brick and mortar store. I find that that is a really good way, especially in QuickBooks Point of Sale, to really manage overselling and preventing overselling. It also gives you a chance to really understand what is your highest or lowest selling product online versus what is your highest or lowest selling product in the online store. So really knowing about your products, knowing what channel is the best channel to put them on, that will give you a really good litmus test as to where a particular product should have the bulk of the inventory. So splitting out the inventory is all about control and insight. So that was a very good question. Thank you. All right, so we're coming to the close of our webinar. So I just want to say thank you to X-Cart for joining us for this webinar, and also thank you to our viewers. This was a great webinar. If you have any QuickBooks related questions, you can always reach out to Chris. If you would like any more information about ECC Desktop, ECC Cloud, or any of the other products that we have within our Webgility product suite, you can always visit our website at www.webgility.com. And thank you and have a great day.